Some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, others make it happen. I'm Dave DeFore, the Department Chair for Scouting, Video, and Analytics for Sports Business Classroom. In our scouting program, our students' instruction begins with an inside look at the job of an NBA scout. From there, we jump right into live Summer League game scouting from the stands of the Thomas & Mack Center, led by experienced NBA personnel. The live game scouting is then supported and supplemented by extensive work in the video room to round out the curriculum. In our analytics component, our instructors will lead students through the process of combining analytics with hands-on scouting to filter the signal from the noise. We teach both the art and the science of scouting. In short, our staff uses their combined decades of experience to provide a week-long program that is unmatched in intensity and scope. Before completing our scouting program, students will have learned how to compile a detailed scouting report with the help of longtime NBA scout Dan Purcell. Every scouting student will leave with the skills to show their work and insight into the inner workings of an NBA front office. Do the right thing for your career by visiting sportsbusinessclassroom.com today.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to our third installment of the No Trade Clause draft series. We are less than 1 week away from the draft. We're coming at you with some rumors that have been going around. Obviously, there have been a ton of things, whether it be smoke or it be actual news. We had another trade recently, and I'm sure we'll have a ton more between when we're recording now and the draft. But as always, here with me is Dan Purcell. Dan, happy belated Father's Day. Got the draft coming up. It's been a good few days for you, I'm sure.
Man, this is the best time of the year. This is like Christmas for me. I love this stuff. This is what I live for.
Awesome. Well, we don't have to waste any more time. Let's dive into it. So we're going to start out just by hashing out this trade that happened. We had a trade a few days ago between Houston and Dallas. To give a very brief overview, in case you missed it, Houston received a 26th pick in this year's draft, Boban Marjanovic, Trey Burke, Marquise Chris, some guys that were borderline rotation players in Dallas, some expiring deals. And Dallas received Christian Wood. Christian Wood, a guy who makes, in the teens in terms of salary. He's been a productive player in his time in Houston. And, Dallas is looking to add that extra piece to take some pressure off Doncic. Just a few stipulations about this trade, some, salary cap, CBA related things. So in order for this trade to take place, Trey Burke needs to opt into his $3.3 million player option, which he's reportedly already done. It's just formalities at this point. And the trade also cannot be officially executed until the draft actually happens. So Houston will be making the pick, but then that player will be immediately sent to Denver, and that's to avoid the Stepien rule. The Stepien rule is a draft rule. Dan, what were your initial thoughts about this transaction? How did it sit with you, and has anything changed as you've seen people kind of talk about it over the recent days?
Yeah, I think it's a decent trade for both sides. I think the biggest thing for me on this, we'll start with the basketball standpoint. It gives them, they're able to take a look at Christian Wood. We had him in New Orleans. I thought, he has a lot of talent. Good kid too. At least my experience has been really good with him. But they get one more year on it, and then I believe they have his bird rights after this, if I'm not mistaken. And so they have a little bit of control if he plays his butt off, but it's good for them in the sense that what did they really give up? Not much. And they got a player who is established, 6 years of service. Like, he's proven he can score defensively. He's, not great, but serviceable, right? So you're looking at it as, is this a partner for Luka moving forward that we can work with? So, and at 26, I don't think Nico probably felt that at 26 he was going to get a value player for Luka, whereas he can get somebody here who's not totally expensive, but a guy he could average 20 and 10. Christian Wood in the right situation can average 20 and 10. It's just, is that situation Dallas? We'll see how that happens.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense, and I'm with you on that in terms of just like the general value. You know, you would I think many people would say they would much rather have an established pro who's been with a few NBA organizations now, knows the ropes, and can come in and have an impact immediately versus a guy who could get buried at the bottom of the bench and may need time and could take a few years to really impact that roster. And they made the conference finals this past year. Like they're ready to go. They're ready to compete. One thing that is also interesting about Christian Wood is this is really the first good team that he's been on. Even going back to his days at UNLV, he hasn't been around a lot of success. And I know there have been some questions about his work ethic and his motor, and you can kind of look at all the transactions he's been involved with, and you kind of look and he's like, wait a minute, this guy might be getting, moved for pennies on the dollar. Like, there could be some red flags. Like, why are all these teams like, trying to get him off their books or trying to get him out of the organization? But who knows, maybe just being a part of a winning culture, a team that's successful could light a fire in him and get him, acclimated to this locker room quicker. And so I look forward to the partnership, and I think it could be a net positive for Dallas. And then Houston is just doing their thing, acquiring assets, adding fuel to the fire for their rebuild. So it's a pretty straightforward deal for me for both sides. If you want more information on it,
before you go to that,
ahead,
just
Dan.
real quick, one more or two more thoughts on this. I wanted to touch on it. I didn't. And for Dallas, it's more or less they can't make any moves. Their move is to re-sign Brunson, right? So that's their free agency move, is just re-signing their own guy. So this was really the only way that they could acquire a player in this offseason of impact, right? At 26, they may have not. You're rolling the dice on that. At least with Christian, you have one year, his contract year on top of it, and you can probably get a good year out of him because he's playing for his next contract. And from Houston, honestly, like you said, we talked about this before. Houston just needs talent. As many cracks at this thing, go at it. As many cracks as you can get at it, go at it, because your team is in 100% rebuild mode. You have 1 to 2 players. Eric Gordon's still on the team. I don't know why. Free Eric Gordon. # free EG. But you would think, and that's why I wanted to touch on this before we moved on here. I wanted to touch on Eric Gordon in the sense that this guy should be on a playoff team right now. In terms of the Rockets are just keep kind of keeping him around. Why? I don't know. I don't know. He has a non-guaranteed after this upcoming season. He has non-guaranteed money. By the way, using no trade clause for anybody that is trying to follow along with us. NoTradeClause.com. Think you guys are awesome. I love this. I love it. But Eric's making $20 million. How many guys who shoot 40% from three and still have a lot left in the tank are sitting on the losing team making $20 million? Like, you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. So
yeah, you got to think what their asking price is. Maybe I'm pretty sure Houston wants a first rounder, and
as they should. He's worth a first rounder. I think that's the thing. I was very surprised when I heard it was Christian Wood and not Eric Gordon, honestly, in this trade. I was actually really surprised because I thought that Eric should be the one being moved in the sense he probably has more value. And maybe that was the thing. Maybe he had more, Houston wanted more than Dallas was willing to give, and they wanted to get Wood. But I watched draft night. This is one thing we'll get into a little later, but watch draft night and Eric Gordon. There might be something brewing there where Houston packages him and some of their picks to take on some money and move up in the draft. I just wanted to put that out there. Is it going to happen? Probably 40% that it will, 30, maybe 35%, but it's out there. And Eric's a guy who a lot of teams will want.
Definitely. So, yeah, I totally see where you're coming from with Eric. he is, shooting is an incredible asset to have for any team, and especially teams that are trying to compete. It's just a matter of, a lot of these playoff teams, their draft capital is depleted. They don't, they have a lot of veterans, not a lot of young guys that they're developing that can be on the move. So it's trying to, it's a tough match to make, but I feel like Houston can do it if they just keep remaining patient. They stick to their guns, and that's probably why he's been around for so long. Is they're just waiting for the right deal to get in front of them.
Some team names that I would look for, and playoff team doesn't mean that you're the third seed. Playoff teams means that you're in the play-in, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying watch Charlotte. I am saying watch Cleveland. I am saying watch Atlanta. I think those are all possible. New York's a possible trade partner too, honestly. In terms of the player, I don't know if they can make something work, but there's something there. And then if Washington does feel like Beal is staying, I would watch. Why not get Eric Gordon and more stuff? You know what I mean? If you can, to help Beal out. So just names. I think anything for 10 is a little steep. I think 11's steep. Anything attached with 11 and Eric Gordon is probably a little steep at this point in his career. 2 years ago, it's not. But Charlotte I'm really eyeing Charlotte with those 2 picks.
Gotcha. Well, for the full financial breakdown of this trade, the full from a cap lens, Anil from No Trade Clause made a great video breaking down the trade. He gets real in depth in terms of the implication for both sides' cap sheets, and you can check that out on our YouTube channel and your streaming platforms, just the same way you're listening or watching this episode. You could catch it there on our channel as well. So be sure to tune into that if you want some more information on this transaction. But we are a draft podcast, so let's dive into the draft. We have a full slate of rumors and all this buzz about what's been going on for the past week. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty about what we've been hearing, I want to take a minute with our listeners to help them kind of parse through all the stuff that's going out. We're hearing there's a lot of information being put out on Twitter and other social media, a lot of articles being written, players on the move. Most notably, we got some Kyrie Irving news today. And I want to help the listeners be able to figure out what is real intel, what is stuff that is being accurately reported versus what is just smoke that's being blown across to either confuse front offices, or that's really just nonsense that's being put out there by someone to get clicks. So I guess my 2 cents on the matter is, if you hear something, you see something, and you're scratching your head a little bit, just do your own research. There are plenty of resources out there, including our incredible website, where you can go look at a cap sheet. We even have a trade machine on our website. So if you hear something about a player being traded somewhere, just test it out yourself on our website, or look at plenty of other resources out there to see, can this physically, given the rules around our league, can it be done? And more often than not, that answer is no. And then you could immediately just cross it off like, yes, this is smoke. This is just meant to mess with people. And if the answer is yes, this can be done. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about whether this is something that is actually in the team's best interest. Maybe you dive into a little more on the source that you're getting it from. Is this a reputable source? And then you can go down your decision tree however you'd like from there. But my first recommendation would be just do your 5-10 minutes of research, see if this can actually physically be done. Dan, you got anything to add?
Yeah, most of what you're seeing, especially 5 days and closer to the draft, it's mostly a lot of smoke. It's just a lot of positioning and agents. It's mostly agents putting news out there that this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. They're trying. You just have to understand, and there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. It's just you have to understand the angles in which agents are coming from. And agents is a general word, but you got to remember agents are people too, and they each have their own personalities, and they have their own goals, and they have their own methods. And the Kyrie stuff to me is just a bunch of smoke. I think it's it's his agent and the New York media just trying to ruffle some stuff up,
Stir the pot. I
So,
mean, it's just too convenient. Like
I
right
mean,
before, 4 days
here's the
before the
problem.
draft.
Well, here's the problem. Kyrie literally a month ago said, "I can't leave my dude in Brooklyn. I can't leave my guy behind."
Mhm.
He already blew it. Like this positioning is already like it's a moot point. If anybody pays attention, I mean, Kyrie literally said he slipped and said, "Ah, I can't leave my guy. I can't leave KG or Durant behind. I can't leave my guy." So he already
Mhm.
messed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are able to see through this one pretty clearly. I guess the stuff that's more difficult is stuff surrounding the draft, and that's a lot of the news and intel that you've been receiving recently is stuff on the draft,
Yeah.
specifically players in this year's draft. What are some teams that could be moving up, moving down, teams that like certain players, and whether it be in workouts or they just like them overall as a good fit for their roster. So let's kind of dive into some of these bits and pieces that you've kind of picked up on. First, I guess we could talk about this New Orleans OKC news that intel that you received. You want to let the good people know?
Yeah, I heard from multiple people about a possible swap OKC New Orleans. OKC would move up to 8. They would then trade 12 and a future first. I did not get told which ones they were, but if we at it from a constructive perspective, right? We can see. Hold on, I have it up in my notes here. Sorry about that. You can see they have a bunch of they have Detroit's pick, they have Denver's, they have Washington's. So you have to think it's or Utah's, something out in the future for Utah. So they also have Houston's first, I believe, next year, and also Philly's first in 25 and 26. So um, it's going to be one of those picks, but it's an asset that they're going to be able to parlay into something else. And then it looks to me as if 8 it will be Shaden Sharp for OKC, and then 12 would probably be Jeremy Sochan. That's what I'm hearing.
Gotcha.
Again, I'm not Woj, I'm not breaking news, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just sharing information.
Just the word on the street.
Yeah, just things that, and it wasn't just one thing that I always try to do. I always try to get a backup or in a third, right? I try to like find 3 people that, and I had 3 people tell me this was a pretty good possibility. Again, New Orleans is not set at 8 in terms of they're kind of in win now mode now that they have Zion and they're going to re-sign him, and then they have this pick at 8 who they can get a role player who I thought AJ Griffin would be a great role player, just a good fit, a guy who's a good fit in that program. But Jeremy Sochan's also a really good fit from a term of he's probably more what they look for in terms of his defense. He's got a big motor, and his shooting can really improve. But Griffin probably is going to be a better prospect, but Sochan could be a really good role player on a good team. And if you can, it's super smart. It's super smart if you can obviously get I mean, Sam Presti's been doing this for years, right? Getting assets out of nothing, and that's pretty much what New Orleans is doing. They're taking the Lakers pick, and now somebody's going to go back one day and look at it and go, oh, well, they traded this and they picked Sochan, and then they got I don't know, the Utah pick, and it was 12. I'm just throwing it out there. And or the Clippers first for next year, and they got 19 or 20, and they're going to just tell how great the trade was with Anthony Davis. You know what I mean? It's just the same tale.
Yeah, no, I
What do
think
you
it
think
makes
about
sense.
what do you think about that? What do you think about that trade?
Yeah, I think it makes sense for both sides. I think, New Orleans trading back, they got a lot out of their rookies this year. I think that it makes sense to give those guys, Herb and Trey Murphy, like a clear runway to, get after it in year two. And I think Sohan can complement those guys pretty well. Bring like a defensive edge that Trey Murphy might not necessarily have. So that could be like a really good pairing. And in term from the OKC side, it feeds right into their overall philosophy, right? Like going and getting a guy like Shaden Sharp. This goes back to what I've said previously, where that's a guy that we've all viewed as such a question mark, but I'm sure that organization has done their due diligence by now, and they could see. I wouldn't be surprised if they really saw him as a player with the potential to really put a stamp on that franchise. So why not go up and get him? And if you're in the business of getting value, getting assets at great value, he has the potential to be, one of these top caliber players in a draft. And if you're getting him in the 8th spot, that's the name of the game for Oklahoma City. So it makes sense for both. It makes sense for both sides to me.
And that'd be and just for in terms of OKC, that they're here to obviously make picks, right? They have too many picks. They can't. You have to look at them as they're for the next 4 drafts. They're nothing but aggressive. You know what I mean? They're always going to be in the team that moves up, and they're going to do it in the draft because they can. They have the capital to do it. But I think it's a solid trade both ways. I think New Orleans is in a win-win situation, whether they keep it and draft somebody in that bucket we talked about last week, or if they trade down and grab the next tier down of guys. And who knows, maybe somebody dropped. Maybe Johnny Davis dropped. Maybe O'Shea Agbaji dropped. And, they said, hey, we love Jeremy Sochan, but, man,
yeah,
can't pass on, Johnny Davis here. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they would. I'm just saying it gives you the options of doing that.
Definitely. I mean, the draft does get weird like that. And this one has the potential to get weird pretty quickly. So
this is going to get, I'm telling you right now, you can quote me. This thing is going to get weird. It's going to be weird at the beginning of the draft at 4. That's the logical start point. But where it really could get murky is OKC at 2. That might start this whole watershed of moves, and you'll be able to see by the end of the night what teams were prepared and what teams weren't. You'll be able to tell right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of goes into some more buzz that we've been hearing. You're saying the draft is going to start right around 4. Sacramento and Sacramento and Indiana, have been, really thrown in the fire the past few days. This whole Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray debate. There have been a lot of teams that have been very interested in trading up to go get Jaden Ivey. I know Knicks fans would love that more than anything. They're trying to get off Julius Randle so badly and trying to, do whatever they can to throw that chip in the mix. But do you think any team has a shot at going up to get up to the 4 spot and go get Jaden?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Detroit, Indiana, Portland, New Orleans, if they wanted to. I don't think they will, but they could. OKC could really make a good case to get to 4. Mm-hmm. How about that? How big of a steal? How many people will praise Sam Presti as the greatest drafter ever if he's able to go get Jaden Ivey, and if he takes Banchero, or if he takes Holmgren, whoever he takes, and they pull out of that? How crazy would that be, huh? That would be.
Yeah, that's there are not many hauls I've seen better than that, better than those two in the past.
And that's what I'm hearing.
Years.
That's also what I'm hearing, though, is that's OKC may shake this whole thing up. They may shake the whole thing up and take Banchero too. And I think it's smoke. I do think it's smoke. I don't think Sam would pass on Holmgren. He likes unicorns. He's drafted unicorns his whole life, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing that if you look at Sam's track record is he loves, look at Giddey, right? Skilled basketball players. And as much as you want to say about Russell Westbrook, he was skilled. He was a skilled guy. He can do a lot of things when he was younger, right? Durant, I mean, he didn't draft Durant obviously, but you know, guys like that. I think Ibaka he drafted as well. I'm pretty sure, right? That was him.
I don't remember.
Can't remember off the top of my head, but anyways, but his history of guys is usually guys who are either super skilled or they're freaks of nature, right? And that's where I think Chet is just super skilled. And when you're that super skilled, it's hard to take you off the floor. I could see him going Paolo if he feels like he's gonna if Chet's gonna get in the way of Giddey in terms of possessions, because they want Giddey to facilitate and do what Giddey does, be a guy who scores 14. He has 14, 10, and 10 at the end of the day every day. That's like Jason Kidd type numbers. So we'll see. OKC, mate, I'm telling you, man, Sam will blow this up. I don't know that Paolo is the type of guy that he would draft, but Sam would do it. If he takes Paolo, I think that opens up Houston to more trade, more trade opportunities for two reasons. One, that you're going to be on the clock, so you're only going to have X amount of time, right? So you're going to have to make a decision, because if you're Indiana and you wanted Chet's number one on your board, and you see that Chet is now at 3, Houston is going to be saying, we can get a ransom for Chet. Like, we can just pick him. We can just take him, and it's a ransom for him, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what Houston does. If I was Houston in that situation, everybody's calling me. I know they're going to call me. Everybody's going to be calling me. And I would get as much as I could as fast as I could. And you'll see if Houston, and that's what I'm saying, like these teams that are prepared, Houston should be prepared for that scenario that OKC takes Paolo, and there's teams that are below them that thought that it was just that Chet was a pipe dream. There's no way OKC we were going to be able to get him, and now we got to go get him. We are Portland. You know what I mean? 7, Jeremy Grant, whatever we can come up with. You know what I mean? If we can sign and trade Anthony Simons to you guys, don't care. Talk about a good rebuild, right? What if they get 7 and they're somehow able to do the sign and trade with Simons? Then you have Green, Simons, and the number 7 pick, who could be Dyson Daniels. Like, now you're really starting to get a really nice team. So that's what I'm saying. I think that we'll see if Houston's prepared, which I'm sure they are, but they need to be prepared for that scenario right there.
Yeah, there's no way they can't be, right? We've talked about how many different ways the first 3 can go. Like, aside from any trades aside, all the different combinations that this could go, and there's no clear-cut number 1, 2, or 3. So I
think there's a clear-cut one. I think Orlando's locked in on Jabari Smith. I don't think it's I don't think there's much wiggle room there. They're not trading it, that's for sure. You don't trade the number 1 pick unless you're moving to 2 and gaining a lot of stuff, right? They're not trading it. I don't think they take Paolo. I don't think so. I think they were so bad at shooting last year. I think they were in the bottom 10% of the league in shooting, in 3-point shooting. So Jabari makes sense. And I mean, the guy could be a generational guy for them, and he could be Dirk Nowitzki for all they know.
Yeah, I guess I was more so speaking on me, but I was failing to acknowledge the actual intel out there. But aside from that, there's so many different ways, and every team needs to have contingency plans, and I'm sure they all do at this point.
But see, that's not a contingency plan, though. To me, that's a real thing. When you're that high, you have to say, if player A drops to us, what are we doing immediately as a team? This is already mapped out. You're almost like practicing it and getting in reps. Like, it's not contingency. It's not a backup plan. It's literally this. If this scenario happens, what are we doing? And everybody knows it. And we've ran through it 30,000 times until we're red in the face. Everybody that's who's going to be in that draft room knows what we're going to do. So when we have whatever X amount of time left on the clock, everybody in the room goes, oh, Chet's available. What are we doing? And da-da-da-da-da. I know this guy and this guy and this guy. They know what they're doing. They know who they're calling. They know, you know what I mean? Like it's not contingency. This is an action plan. And that's what I really want to see from Houston. They have a real opportunity, I think, if Paolo goes too. I think they have a real opportunity to show their guile, to show their growth, to show their aggressiveness. Because if it's me, I literally have 3 guys who we have targets underneath us, which the targets would be Sacramento, Detroit, and Portland. Possible Indiana, but sure, throw Indiana in there. So 4 guys, right? So I have 4 individuals that are my point of contacts, and each one of them, I'm just giving an example for everybody what I would do. And let's just say that it's Sac, Detroit, Indiana, Portland, right? Those are the teams underneath us that will go after Chet no matter what. I have one person designated who those teams know is your designated person to talk to. If you can't get a hold of me, this is your person you're talking to, right? And I'm not going to answer the phone. For the sheer fact of I want those guys individually to tell me each and every one of what those teams are giving. Does that make sense? Rather than me trying to do it all by myself, I need to delegate because my job is to take all the information, the 4 people, and we're going to put it up on the board. And this is quick. Like we're going to have a scry and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're literally executing. I'm having one guy literally, as we found out, as Paolo gets picked, I'm calling it. He's calling Indiana right now. And literally, I don't have to say anything. Portland, you're calling Portland. You're calling Detroit. You're calling Sac. You already know the game plan. You already know what we're asking for. You know the assets that they have. You know what we're going to ask for that pick. And then you go execute. You see what I mean? That's what I'm saying. It's difference between a contingency plan and an action plan. For me, this is an action plan, and this is very actionable. And I would have one for Jabari too, just in case. I don't think it's real. It probably doesn't happen, but I know that if they take Paolo, there's going to be teams lining up for Chet, and I'm going to be ready.
Yeah, I mean, being ready is everything in this stage of the game. The stakes are so high and the time is so limited, so planning is everything at this point. But I wanted to switch gears a little bit, talk about a team that has been in the news recently, not necessarily in a draft sense, but their free agency with the Lakers. They've been rumored to be interested in buying into the first round. Getting a pick late in the first that they could bring in someone who could help impact their team. Add some more youth to the roster. Hopefully take on some of the roster construction philosophies that I've been preaching on this podcast, going young, getting another awesome.
Rob Pelinka is definitely listening to you. I'm going to tell you that right now. Rob definitely has you on his podcast listening list.
Well, he should. But hopefully they can go get someone to do the dirty work with Reeves. And what are your thoughts? Is this smoke that they're going to be buying in, or do you think they've got a legit chance to be aggressive, or do you think they're just going to sit back and do their work in a few weeks when free agency opens up?
Yeah, I broke this about 3 weeks ago that they were trying to buy back in the first. I think I was one of the first people in the media. It's weird saying I'm in the media, but I am. I was one of the first people to point out that this was their aim, right? I know it's maybe obvious for some, but it's probably sure didn't sound like it because nobody was talking about it. You know what I mean? And 29 in Memphis is probably for sale. Memphis roster spots to begin with. And then second of all, small market teams usually sell those late first, early seconds if they don't have a pick of their own already. But Memphis already has 22. That's it's part of their budget. A lot of the smaller teams, that's part of their operating budget. That's how they get, or maybe that's how the owner makes his money for the year. Maybe the team breaks even, but this one trade makes him $4 million. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's economics to it, but I would look at 29. I think Memphis has enough cash they can take back in, from what I understand. Anybody that wants to fact check me, please go do that. I have no problem being wrong. because usually what will happen is it's a good faith thing, and they'll fill out the amount of, and again, this is not technically, I guess, legal, but I guess it's not illegal. It's not like you're doing anything bad, but you pay whatever you can into their cash for this year, and then you make a separate transaction with a fake pick for the next season to fill that dollar amount. Precedent's usually used here, so watch for 4.5 million would probably be right about for 29. Inflation is real around here, Oliver. And yeah, I would say that I wouldn't think Golden State sells. Denver might 30, since they got 30, they might sell 30. So watch for 29 or 30. I mean, the problem with the Lakers is they're top heavy. They owe LeBron James and Anthony Davis next year $81 million, $82 million just between the two of them. So, it's a really tough thing. And then, of course, you have Russell with his player option at 47, which he would be I don't know what he's thinking if he doesn't take it. I would 100% say he's going to pick that up. Why would you pass up 47 million? That's you're not going to get paid 47 million anywhere else, even on a 2-3 year contract. Nobody's going to pay you 3 years and 47 million. Like, I just don't see that right now. So
yeah,
they're in a lot of trouble. I'll just be honest with you. Thank goodness they have the greatest player to play since Jordan. Sorry, Kobe lovers. I love Kobe too. But probably the best player since MJ. And thank goodness they have him. And if Anthony wants to turn it around, and Anthony wants to get back in shape and get after it, and really, work towards his goal again, obviously, which should be to win a championship, then they have a shot just because they got those two dudes, And if they have Russ, then they have Russ, and they try to make it work and try to fix it in some way. But otherwise, I mean, getting into the draft is smart, cheap contracts, guys who you control for 4 years if you like them. They really got to find some gems, though. I always say that I should probably, ask Rob if he wants me to be a freelance for him, because I find gems, right? That's kind of my shtick. And they need to find some gems. I wouldn't be surprised if they bought in the second round. If they went for Cleveland at 39, Sacramento at 37. I have all these pinned. Minnesota or Minnesota at 40, New Orleans at 41 are all for sale. And then I guess if they find somebody really late in the second, Atlanta should be for sale at 44. Milwaukee at 54 should be for sale, and probably, sorry, I'm fidgeting. Cleveland at 58. I don't know why you'd want to buy 58, but if they did, I'm sure it's for sale.
Yeah, is there? You mentioned finding those gems, those diamonds in the rough. Is there someone specifically for the Lakers that you could see having a positive impact there? Probably in the late first round, some of those picks we started talking about.
Yeah, I would say it's the guys who fall out of that bucket who are at the, we'll throw some names of the Jaden Hardys, the Jalen Williamses of the world, the Max Christies, the Caleb Houstons, and these are just names, obviously, the Patrick Baldwins, the EJ Liddell, Jake LaRavias of the world, like those types of guys are going to be available. Christian Braun is probably the number one name that I would say for them.
Yeah, that's exactly who I had pinned too. I think he could be a really good fit for them.
Yeah, I think for them he'd be a really good fit. That's who I have as a guy who, if he's there at 29 at Memphis, worth a shot. Why not? You need shooting. You need shooting on shooting. And he's good enough. He's athletic enough. He shoots the ball well enough. And I think if LeBron is good to the kid, he'll have a lot of confidence, right? He needs confidence. Mm-hmm. His confidence shakes sometimes. But I think if Max Christie's there as well, that's another really good opportunity for them to get length and athleticism on the wing with upside. Good shooter too. or he's going to be a good shooter, I think, anyways. So those are probably the guys that I'd look for. One of those guys that fell, but otherwise, I think Christian Braun is the name that I would be looking if I were them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, those are all definitely good names. Definitely Christie as well. I'm a proponent of him on that team. Wendell Moore is a guy I have already said I really like, and I think he would fit well in that team. Just continue to be that glue guy and make the right play.
You don't think he's a copy of Taylor Horton Tucker almost? Same role?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like Wendell might be a little more selfless, and
Fair.
I think it could. I could see him just getting into a team and just buying into like that winning culture like immediately, and just always making the right play, and putting the stars in best position possible to succeed. Whether that means providing floor spacing, making the extra pass, playing some good off-ball defense, being in the right place at the right time. I think that's kind of the stuff he brings that Horton Tucker may not. So
it's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers need help.
What was that?
Lakers need help.
Yeah. Bottom line, Lakers need help. And, they will more likely than not be relatively calm in this draft, but, expect their news to really pick up in the weeks afterwards once free agency gets going. Every year it seems like they have to hit refresh on their roster over the past few years just because of all the minimum guys that they end up signing, because of, as you mentioned, their top heavy roster. So
yeah,
it's a slippery slope that they've gone down, and hopefully they can find some stability moving forward, and hopefully there is a young guy that is able to help with that in this draft. But that's all that we have. Dan, is there any other intel you may have received even while we've been on this call, or anything that you'd like to add, leading into the draft on Thursday? Anything to watch out for?
I got stuff to add. I do. So just want to touch on a couple things, and I want to talk about Charlotte. 13-15. I don't think that they're going to be picking for both. I think they're going to trade one or both. Personally, from what I'm seeing, I think they have Jalen Duren on their mind, which I agree with. I think that's a guy that he fits what they usually do, and they need a big. They need a big athletic guy that LaMelo can throw the ball up, a la DeAndre Jordan type guy, right? Give them some vertical spacing. Shaden Sharp, like I said, I think it sounds like OKC's locked in on him. I think they like the upside. I think that ultimately he's the heir apparent to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that would mean that Shai is probably on the trading block. If not this offseason, it will be next offseason or maybe at the trade deadline. So definitely watch that as OKC as a facilitator in a Beal trade, or to help with salary, or to help with another big name that might be on the move. Indiana, everything I'm hearing on Indiana at 6, they're trying to move up to 4 is whatever they can. Within reason, they're not going. They can't afford to bet the farm on one guy. Everything I've heard though is that they want the local guy. They want Jaden Ivey went to Purdue. It's easier to market there. Indiana guys like Indiana people. Indiana people like Indiana guys. Like it's just basketball culture there. Like I said, Paolo at 2, that opens the floodgates for Chet at 3. That means Houston's a big player, and I think that foils Sacramento's value of 4, even though it is Jaden Ivey, because they're going to lose a trade partner at that point. Everybody, I've heard so many teams trying to get 4. I've heard Detroit, Indiana, Portland's inquired, San Antonio inquired, but they're not going to bet the farm. New York inquired. I don't think they have enough. The sleeper on this is OKC. OKC has way too much ammo. If they feel like they can get to 4 and take Ivy, maybe they run away with Paolo and Ivy. out of this draft, or if they go Holmgren and Ivy, whichever way they go. They have the ammo. As one person that I talked to said, they have the ammo. It's just a matter, are they going to pull the trigger? It's going to be really hard for Sacramento to say no to this year's 8 if they get New Orleans pick at 8. I think that's part of it as well. It gives them flexibility to move up to 4, right? 8's way more appealing than 12 if you're at 4, right? You're only moving 4 down. And then they have so many picks. They can put Philly. They can put Houston next year. They could put Utah. I mean, they can make a combination of it. They could give you Utah and Philly and Houston, just because the protections are a little higher. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff. I think they have the Clippers unprotected next year. So there's just a lot of stuff that OKC is just getting thrown around with, obviously, because some of it's smoke. But I think this has some wheels on it. I really think the one thing Sam's not afraid to do is take shots, right? We've seen it. He will take shots. And he has so many picks, and he does not have the roster spots. It's almost like I don't have to make a move, but I'll tell you what, if it's a good calculated move and I have to move 3 of my picks and I have to trade I have to trade 1 pick to the Pelicans to move up to 8, but then I take 8 and I roll it into 2 to 3 more picks to Sacramento to move up 4 spots, which will probably be 2 first. It won't be 3. It'll probably be 2. And I take Ivy, and I'm rolling out of there with either Banchero, Holmgren, Ivy, 2 of those 3. That is a coup. That's an absolute coup of a draft, and I think OKC has their eyes on that. Cleveland, I heard, wants out of 14. They'll probably trade it out for future firsts. Who else do I have in my notes here?
Yeah, that was one that we hit on in the last pod, actually, when some of that Monty Morris news broke. That Denver was looking that could, come to fruition, or like you said, they could end up getting some future picks out of that. But I would personally like to see them get a player in return that could help them, take the next step in their playoff ambitions.
Yeah, and that was the next thing I was about to actually touch on was Denver. Denver's they've been linked to 9, 10, 11. I don't think they're going to get 9 or 10. I don't think New York wants to trade down. They've been linked to 15. They've tried, from what I understand, they talked to Charlotte about getting in the lottery, didn't work out. They've talked about packaging. They've talked to New Orleans about packaging up to 8. So there's that. They've also talked to Portland about taking Monty Morris and taking him on, giving Dame another guard to work with, but then also giving, obviously, a bunch of picks on top of it. What now? Sorry, I'm going right down my notes here. Houston, they have interest in packaging 17 and 26. The target on 17 and 26 is Cleveland at 14, Charlotte at 13, Oklahoma City at 12, but I don't think Oklahoma City's interested on gaining more picks in the draft. I don't think that's in this draft at least. In this draft, right? This draft.
Yeah.
Future value is more important to them than what you currently have, and it's too close to. It's like anybody who trades options in the stock market, like it's like 0 date expiry options are tough to play, and that's the same type of feel here. Philly's trying to move up. They don't have anything. Nobody wants to work with them for the most part, but they have their picks over at OKC as well in the future. They don't have a ton. Miami, not afraid to trade out of it. Memphis likes 22. 29 is up for sale, either the Clippers or the Lakers or the Knicks if they want it. And Toronto tried to get back in. They're not in. The first round, sorry. And risers, right? For some reason, Paolo Banchero has rocketed up random people's mocks the last week, and if anybody that listens to me knows, I'm not a big fan of late risers at the 11th hour. Like it's fluff. There might be some truth to it, but I would rather talk to the guys people February 15th rather than June 20th. There's a lot that changes in between those 2 points. I think that's all I got.
Sweet.
For now.
Well, that will definitely give our listeners and our viewers something to chew on over the next few days. Look for some of those, headlines that Dan touched on. Look for them, in the media moving forward. And like I mentioned, there are a ton of resources out there to figure out whether or not it's smoke or it's legit intel. Obviously, if it's coming from Dan, he's got his sources. Like you said, he checks it he gets it from at least 3 people before he puts it out. So
I don't blow smoke. Let's
exactly.
put it that way. I'm not in the business of smoke blowing.
So, but for anyone else, any other headlines you read out there, be sure to use the resources on notradeclause.com to parse out the smoke versus the real intel. We've got great content coming up for the next few days around the draft, and we're starting to put out some off-season previews. Our guy Ali has been putting out some really good graphics. Easy to read, very digestible. That highlight, every team's off-season outlook using whatever cap tools they have, whatever major decisions they have to make in free agency, and all the assets at their availability to make the necessary decisions over the next few months. But yeah, that's it for us. One more reminder that registration for Sports Business Classroom closes in, I think, 10 days from when we are recording. For the immersive experience in Vegas. As always, if you have any questions, if you're on the fence, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, to Dan, to anyone on the SBC team. We're happy to talk about, our experience with it, how it's impacted our respective careers, and, what it's done for us to be a part of that community. So that's all I got. Go ahead,
One more
Dan.
thing, Oliver. We're hosting a free webinar for the NBA draft on June 22nd. So check it out, sportsbusinessclassroom.com. Sign up. It's free. All you got to do is just put your email in and you get told where to go and the code and the link and all that stuff. And it's Ryan McDonough, Seth Partnow, and myself. We're going to be talking all things draft.
Yeah, come with your questions. We tend to do Q&A sessions at the end of those. So if you got any lingering thoughts, whether it be about this podcast, some news buzzing around the draft, bring it to the table, and let our experts know what's on their mind, what's on your mind. But you can follow myself on Twitter, OLA_hoops, Dan's Twitter, IM_Dan P, and catch us next time. We'll be hashing out all the transactions, all the moves. We'll be doing some post-game. It essentially is post-draft coverage of all the things that went down. We'll be having some guests joining us in the near future. That'll be super interesting. But stay tuned with everything we got going on, and I will see you guys soon.
Some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen. Others make it happen. I'm Bo Estes, the Department Chair for Media at Sports Business Classroom, and I'm offering you a chance to put into action the words of Michael Jordan and make it happen at the NBA level this summer in Las Vegas. At SBC, each of our students receives extensive, hands-on training from successful professionals currently working in the business, and then our students put that knowledge into play. Each student will handle play-by-play duties as well as analysis, calling multiple NBA games at Summer League. Additionally, our students will work as studio hosts and analysts from our state-of-the-art SBC set located in the atrium of the Thomas and Mack Center. The training and opportunities don't end there, though. Our professionals will teach you the art of storytelling and the skill required to successfully run your social media accounts. This training culminates in a session designed to teach you how to start and grow your media business. Our SBC students will leave Las Vegas with an improved skill set and a refined understanding of the different roles and requirements to work in media. That newfound knowledge is designed to launch a career or supplement a parallel career in the business of basketball. Don't wish it would happen. Make it happen for your career today by visiting sportsbusinessclassroom.com.